It's every server's dream that a generous person comes in and gives you a gigantic tip just because you were nice and you flashed a pretty smile. And that's what happened to Shayna Brown over at the Waffle House. But this turned into a total nightmare for her because the generous donor left her a tip on his credit card for $1,500 with a caveat that she shared $500 of it with this woman in a booth next to him. But the problem is that the restaurant said, oh, we don't accept big tips on credit cards because they could dispute it later. All big tips have to be given in cash or a personal check. So yeah, this could have been disastrous for poor Shayna. She wasn't allowed to cash in her $1,000 tip. The man did, it wasn't a mistake, he did want to give her the grand. Fortunately, a news organization tracked this guy down and he is going to write her a personal check. But what?
Okay, so first of all, she says, I feel like they stole from me. They did exactly what they teach us not to do. I mean, if you got a $1,000 tip and they're not going to give it to you, oh man, it'd be so, who wouldn't be like steaming mad?
Yeah.
Now, there's so many heroes in this story. Obviously, Waffle House in this particular case happens to be the bad guy.
Right.
I'm going to explain a little bit more detail why they did what they did. But first, the guy who gave the tip in the first place is a hero. He doesn't even want to be known. He doesn't want to get credit for it.
No, he just said he liked her good spirit and just wanted to pay it forward.
Right, and so it's a Raleigh businessman who did it. He apparently told her right before he did it, he said, I'm going to bless you tonight. Now, if I had heard that at 3 a.m. on a Waffle House, I would have been like, wait, you sure, dog? Okay.
You're not going to bless me.
He wasn't kidding.
Yeah, not by the dumpster. What do you mean you're going to bless me?
Right, but he turns out he was a great guy, and he gave the money. And so then this other hero, of course, is
Shayna Brown herself, who apparently everybody loves and does a great job. And even they say in the article, like, people who come by who don't have a lot of money, they'll give extra tips to her because she's so friendly, etc. Right? But the third hero in the story is Charlotte Observer reporter Josh Schaefer, who chased this down, and when Waffle House took the tip away, found the businessman and asked him, and that's when he wrote the $1,000 check. If it wasn't for the reporter, she was never going to get her money. Okay? So bless his heart for doing that. Now let's go to Waffle House. Look, they say, look, it's company policy because we don't want it to be a mistake and then you charge a customer $1,000 or in this case $1,500 extra and then he's going to be livid. And there's credit card fraud sometimes. So it's just a company-wide policy that we don't accept those tips unless they do it by cash or check. Look, on the one hand, you think, I get the reason for the company policy. On the other hand, as Josh Schaefer, the reporter here, points out, he's like, you're assuming the worst case scenario. And that's totally unfair to the waitress because in 99 out of 100 cases, once they don't accept the tip, he's never going to go back to that Waffle House. He's not going to know why they didn't accept it, and she's not going to get it.
Yeah, but to be perfectly jaded, why wouldn't corporate America assume the worst? I mean, they're not in the business of assuming the best. And assuming the responsibility in case, God forbid, he does call and dispute it. And you'd think that your company's going to take care of you. So, okay, we can't accept this from him, but we will give it to you. Or, and that would still be a great, puff piece, human interest story for, any news outlet. So why couldn't they be the good guys?
Yeah, and think about their incentives here and how selfish they're being. Because if it turns out he didn't mean to write the $1,500 extra, right? Then they're going to have to figure out how they, compensate him, and it's going to be, at the very least, a pain in the ass for them, and it might cost them some money. But if they do accept the tip goes straight to the waiter. Waffle House doesn't see any of it. So they feel like,
what's the point?
Why do I care about the waiter? Screw the waiter. I don't care if they get the big tip or not, as long as it doesn't cost me an extra minute of work or an extra $1. Right?
But I think they're even more at fault because it's not like he might have just put in, 3 extra zeros or 2 extra zeros. It said on the receipt, please give 500 of this, or a third of this to the woman at the next table. So it's not like he didn't know what he was doing. It's pretty much written there in ink.
Right, and that goes to one of the people who was screwed over. that poor lady at the other booth.
Yep.
She still doesn't have her 500.
Oh no, that woman's at large. She'll never get that money.
Okay, so Josh, now you got to go and chase her down. Okay, I mean, and look, another great point in the article is, who carries $1,000 in cash with them?
Pimps at 3 in the morning at a Waffle House.
And then, or has their checkbook. Oh, I'd like to tip you.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't accept it on credit cards? No problem. I have my checkbook with me at 3 a.m. on a Waffle House.
Let me just figure this out on the abacus I brought with me. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, and look, like you said, the Waffle House could have been the heroes in this story if they gave her the money or they gave the other lady the $500. Plus, at the time, he was eating a Texas bacon patty melt. And how good does that sound?
Oh my God! So you think this blessing was cholesterol induced? Which is possible, right?
By the way, it was Mother's Day. And how good a guy is he? And how much did they screw her over?
And you know what? He would have had every right, obviously, when this investigator tracked him down to be like, oh well. Sorry, that's their policy, and slam the door. But he went the extra mile, and he's going to give her the money. But they made this so difficult for this poor woman to have a really wonderful day. She has 3 kids. They said, the transmission's out in her car. She has utility bills like we all do. And $1,000 obviously wasn't a lot to this guy, but it was a lot to her. It'd be a lot to me.
Yeah. No, man. Look, when you set those policies, you got to consider your employees a little bit more, right? You got to be a little human about it. I know that the corporate machine doesn't really want to be human altogether that much, right? And I get that it's not out of spite that they do the policy, right? But you got to think it through a little bit. It also has consequences for people who work for you, who give their sweat there every day, who's working the night shift, and who, by the way, like she said, you tell her all the time, hey, you better not steal a dime, right? And then you go and take $1,000 out of her pocket. You got to think through how much that's going to hurt her.